Hey everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with JediInsider.com, your number one news source for everything Star Wars. And for today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new release Star Wars The Return of the Jedi SH Figuarts Scout Trooper and Speeder Bike set from Tamasi Nations and Bandai. So initially this comes packaged in just a brown box, an outer box, and it's just got the name and everything on it, so nothing too detailed there. And then you open and then you just have the regular packaging inside that. And this is a much more sleek packaging than like we saw with Hasbro's 6-inch Black Series version of this toy. The packaging measures just under 12 inches in length, and the height is just a little bit over 7 inches. So like I said, much more sleeker looking than the Hasbro Black Series packaging. And you've got an image of the toy on the front, and it looks like the biker scouts speeding through the forest of Endor. You've got the Star Wars logo, the SH Figuarts logo, and the name and everything. Down below you've got the Tamasi Nations and Bandai logos. On one side you have an image of the toy, on the other side you just have border, and then on the back of the packaging it shows you the toy, showing off the various features and everything that come with it. Okay, so let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure and the bike outside the packaging along with the other contents. Now we'll look at the figure first and then we'll take a look at the bike. Okay, so for the figure itself, you get a number of accessories. So first of all, you get 4 different pairs of hands. So you get a pair of closed-fisted hands, and these are what are attached to the figure when you first take it outside of the packaging. Then you get a pair of open hands, and these are for holding the blaster that he comes with. Then you get a pair of completely open hands, and these are more for posing than anything. And then you get a pair of what I would say are speeder bike grip hands. So you've got a little gap between the thumb and the fingers so that you can get it in between the little handlebars on the speeder bike. Changing out the hands is pretty simple. Just attached to the peg. The peg's attached to the arm, so you've just got the hole in the fist. It can be a little tricky sometimes because that peg will move around on you when you're trying to push it in, but usually you can just snap it right into place with no problem. So the figure also comes with the traditional looking Biker Scout blaster, and it's done with just all black. I do like the sculpting detail on it. You can see things like the little scope and everything, so I do like that. I like the detailing with that. I also like that it's a bit bigger than the Hasbro Black Series one. I always thought the Hasbro one was a little bit on the small side, so I'm glad that they made this one a little bit bigger. And the figure will hold the gun nice and tight in the hand if you use one of the grip hands. The plastic on the fingers are pretty loose, so you can get them open, and then he'll hold it nice and tight. He also has the working ankle holster like we see in the movie, and it does fit nice and tight in that as well. So for the figure itself, I think overall they've done a pretty nice job with this. Now, definitely it's a very clean looking figure. There's no dirt, there's no marks, there's no blast marks, there's no dents or anything on his armor. So it's a very clean and pristine looking armor, as opposed to the Hasbro Black Series one, which, you know, they added some dirt here on his feet and his chest area. So I think the Hasbro one actually comes off looking a little better and a little more movie act. Differences are very minor, but like for instance, this little marking on his chest is left unpainted on the SH Figuarts one, whereas it's painted in black on the Hasbro one, and I think that's more movie accurate. I looked at some images online and definitely had the black mark there. And then the pouches, I think the pouches on the utility belt are too small on this SH Figuarts one. They might be a little big on the Hasbro one. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think the larger looking ones look better than the smaller ones. And then just some other minor differences, like on the back here with the belt, the back of the belt, you've got these black marks here, whereas it's basically you've got a little black line, but this seems to be more accurate to what we saw in the actual movie. I never noticed these little handlebar things that stick out on the back here. I don't know what those are supposed to be, but both of them have that, and that is seen in the movie. The helmet seems to be pretty movie accurate, so no complaints there. You've got a shiny black for the visor, and then you've got some gray coloring here on the oxygen piece, and then you've got the little line works up on his forehead and above his nose, so that all looks accurate. And then you've got the vents on the side, so that all looks good, and then the vents on the back as well, so no complaints there. He's got the little backpack piece that sticks out, and you've got the little red mark, so that seems to be pretty accurate. I like the little sculpting detail there. I already pointed out the belt. The belt is a separate piece on this figure, And then you've got some sculpting on the black portion of the legs, which looks good. And you've got the knee pads, and then the boots with the working holster, and even got some nice looking treads on the bottom of the feet. So the figure stands just a little bit over 6 inches tall, not quite 6¼ inches. It is a little bit shorter than the Hasbro Black Series one, which is typical between these two lines. And then here's a comparison with the SH Figuarts Stormtrooper, which are these two are about the same height. Maybe the Biker Scout is a hair taller, and then the SH Figuarts Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker, and Luke is a bit shorter, as he should be. So articulation on this figure is good, and probably maybe a hair better than the Hasbro one. The Hasbro one does have double jointed elbows, and that's really the main place where the Hasbro one's a little bit better. But otherwise, I would say the SH Figuarts one is better. So the head, you can look left, and you can look right, and you can look down good, and you can look up pretty good. And you can kind of pivot the head to the left and the right. You've got movement with the actual neck like you do with most of the Figuarts. I like that they've articulated the shoulder pads so you can get the arm out good, and you've got good rotation there, so that's nice. You also have a bicep swivel. As I mentioned, you just have the single hinged elbow, so he can only bend his elbow about that much. You do also have a swivel here on the lower arm part. I guess I'd call this the elbow rotation, and then you've got rotation with the wrists, and you've got hinges on those hands, so you've got good up and down movement with the hands on this one. You do have a midsection joint, so you've got some rotation there at the midsection, a little bit of crunch there, and can look back pretty good there at the midsection. Also have a waist swivel. The Hasbro one does not have a waist swivel. And then the legs, you can do the splits pretty good, and you can get the leg forward good, and you can do the leg back. This cod piece is kind of a softer rubber material, so it has some flexibility there, which is nice. You've got a thigh swivel, and then you've got double jointed knees, so good bending at the knees, and then you have up and down movement with the foot, and you've got rotation with the foot, but I guess you have a little bit of pivot, but the Hasbro one does have better ankle pivot. And then you have articulated toes on this one. No peg holes on the bottom of the feet. So moving on to the bike. Now I should point out you do get a little instruction sheet that shows you how to work all the features and everything on this figure. So the bike, you get a stand, and it comes in two pieces, so it's all black, and you've got the circular base, and then you just want to plug in this piece here so that these little pieces that come out are on the bottom. And then what you want to do, so the bike, really you need the stand because the feet won't support the bike on its own without the stand, and you can see the foot pieces are straight down on this one. So what you do, and nice attention to detail here. So there's actually a hole here on the bottom, but they've give you a little plug. So if you don't use the stand, you don't see the hole on the bottom. So what you want to do is you want to just remove that little plug. And again, it's just a little piece of plastic. And now you can put it on the stand. And it's a ball stand, so basically you can move it up, pivot it down, kind of rock it to the left, rock it to the right. So you got pretty good movement there on the stand. And just one more thing I want to point out as far as attention to detail, which is nice. They've given you the saddlebag that you see on the back of some of the bikes, and however some don't have that, so they've given you the option where you can actually take that off. So it is removable. That little pouch is removable, and it's done with just a hard plastic, and you got the peg on the bottom and the hole here. And then if you don't want to have the bag on the bike, they've actually given you this little plastic plug to cover up the hole. So again, nice attention to detail there. So the bike itself has some pretty nice detailing to it. It's a very dark brown for the upper part of the bike and here on the front and everything, which may be a little bit too dark, I think, but still looks pretty good for the most part. And then you've got a it's not quite black, but it almost gun gray, very dark gun grayish type color for the inner workings. Maybe, I don't know, maybe gray is not the right word, but it's definitely not a straight black. You got the hoses sculpted, which I think look good, and this engine piece, which I'm not sure what this is really supposed to be, but it is movie accurate. And then you've got the little blaster underneath here. Now this is not articulated, and it is a very thin piece of plastic, so just be careful. It doesn't rotate at all. You've got the little piece on the back here like you see in the movie, so I like that. The foot pieces are articulated, so you can do them up or down however you want. And then the back back flaps are also articulated. Now they're not connected, they don't move when you move the foot pieces, but you can have them like that, or you can do them all the way back. And you've got some nice sculpting detail on the back here to give it that kind of metal look. And then underneath the flaps, again, some nice sculpting detail with the engine pieces, so I like that. On the front, you've got some nice sculpting detail, and you got these little red marks like you see in the movie. Now, I do want to caution you, these little plastic pieces, again, are very thin plastic, and if you catch it on anything, they could easily kind of snap. This one, actually, these pieces on the front are glued. They kind of fit into little tabs, but they're supposed to be glued. I actually knocked this one out, so it still stays in, but it's not glued, so if you bump it, it'll fall off. So just be careful with that. You got the little sculpting with the front blaster. The handlebars have multiple points of articulation, so you can do the whole handlebar kind of forward and back, and you've got this little piston here, so that's nice. It's not a whole lot of movement. That's about as far forward as you can do it, and that's about as far back as you can do it. But then you have some extra articulation here on the top part of the handlebar, so you can do them up and down. And then even these little brake knob things, I think these were supposed to be brakes, you can move back and forth as well, so that's nice. And then I like the detailing with the little throttles on the front here. Again, you want to be careful with these because they're very thin plastic and you could easily snap them. You got some red paint for the controls on the front. You've got some nice sculpting with the seat and everything, so I like that as well. So the bike measures about, let's see, about 11 inches, maybe just under 11 inches in length, and then height when it's on the stand, if you count to the tip of the handlebars, is about 5 3/4 inches, maybe a little over 5 3/4 inches tall. And here's a comparison with the Hasbro Black Series 1, and the Hasbro one maybe is a hair longer, but they're pretty close to the same size. Now again, I will say that I think the Hasbro one has a little nicer detailing with things like the back pouch and the paint application, so I actually think the Hasbro one is maybe a hair more movie accurate than the SH Figuarts one. Okay, and finally, here's a look at the Biker Scout riding the speeder bike. Now, it can take a little bit of effort to get him on there and to match up the feet with the foot pedals and get him holding the handlebars, but you can get him on there, and once you do, he does stay on there pretty tight. There's no pegs on the foot pedals, so there's nothing to attach the feet to the foot pedals. You just have to kind of set them on there. But I do like how you can move the head up enough so that he can be looking straight ahead while riding the bike, so I think that's nice. And overall, I would say it looks pretty good on the bike. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I would say this is a pretty nice looking set. The figure and the bike both look pretty nice. However, when you compare it with the Hasbro one, I do think the Hasbro one is a little nicer looking between the two. I think it's got added paint applications that this one doesn't have, things like the mud on the figure, and even the bike itself I think has a little more detailing as far as the paint applications go. I also think the SH Figuarts one is a little more delicate, so you definitely want to be careful when you're posing it around. So again, it's not a bad set, but compared between this one and the Hasbro one, especially when you factor in the price difference, I think Hasbro is the way to go in this particular case. So this is out now. You can pick it up at places like Big Bad Toy Store. We'll have a full gallery of images up at JediInsider.com. I'll have a link in the description below. As always, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video. And if you haven't already, please follow me on my Facebook and or Twitter pages. I'll have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, I'll catch you later.